smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke.
This podcast is brought to you by the Kansas City Barbecue Store, the official provider of barbecue supplies to listeners of Pitmaster. From smokers and fuel to rubs and sauces, the Kansas City Barbecue Store has everything and anything you could want. And get this, as a listener of the OVS Pitmaster podcast, you can get 10% off of your order this summer by using the code PITPOD, PITPOD, for online orders at www.thekansascitybarbecuestore.com. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. So visit the kansascitybarbecuestore.com today for all of your barbecue needs. This is Luke Darnell here with the Pitmaster podcast, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. And this week, we continue our run of interviewing teams that are up near the top of the KCBS rankings and that are driving around all over the place looking for those sets of points. And we're here with Robert from Smoke Me Silly. How you doing, bud?
Hey, Luke. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. You're on your way to Savannah, I believe, for this week's contest.
Yeah, it's one of the longer drives that we usually do. But we've done this contest before in Savannah. They do a good job, so we're glad to be back.
Very cool. We are. So Kim doesn't work during the summer because she's a school teacher. So last year, I scheduled a bunch of work during the summer and we didn't compete a lot. So I made sure this year to keep some weeks open. So we're actually in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
And we'll be leaving tomorrow, going to cook a contest right outside of Detroit. So that'll be our 31st state, I think, that we've cooked in.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Lexa was actually born in the Detroit area, so maybe one day we'll get up that way.
Yeah, this is in Westland, I believe. It's
okay.
Right between Ann Arbor and Detroit. So, yeah, new state. But as we're staying with Rick Hamilton from Ham Bones by the Fire, who is going to drive his trailer up with his Jambo, and because we don't have our trailer, I'm going to make Kim drive our truck. And today they looked at me and they were kind of like, "You're kind of being chauffeured through this entire contest this weekend."
Wow, you got it made.
Yeah, I'm kind of digging it. I'm not going to lie. So where are you guys right now in the points race?
Oh man,
Fourth?
Unfortunately, we're in our sort of summer slump, I call it. We usually come into the spring pretty strong, and then the summer we don't usually do as well. And that's sort of been consistent. I can't tell you why, but we're in the third, fourth area now, where I think we're eighth or something like that. But you've had a lot of other teams coming on strong right now. Urkel, man, he's on a tear.
Oh, yeah. He's been pretty unstoppable recently.
I know.
And I interviewed him last week, and I told him after the interview that I was going to get him this week, and I got him on day one, but he got everybody on day two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've actually got to see you guys quite a bit this year, so that's been pretty cool.
I know. We've seen you twice, I think. We saw you in Wise. You did great there.
Greenwood.
That's a great. Oh, and Greenwood. That's right. Back to back.
Wise continues to be just an amazing place. I love that contest.
Yeah, like I told the organizer, I'm surprised they don't have a wait list.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a great contest. In fact, I hate to say it, but I actually enjoyed that better than Greenwood, and I enjoy Greenwood.
Yeah. So you guys have been doing this for how long now?
Oh, man, it seems like forever. We actually started back in 2011 cooking backyard in Alabama. I think I did about 5 or 6 contests through to the end of the year. And I told Lex, I said, this is okay cooking chicken and ribs, but man, I want to cook some brisket. So we took a class in early 2012. It was Tippy Canoe and Big T's.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you recall them, but they were kicking butt that year, the year before, and we went to their class up in Iowa.
That was the Iowa Barnstormers class, wasn't it? Isn't that what they called it?
Called, but it was cold. I know it was in the winter time, and about a foot and a half of snow on the ground that weekend. But I got to go to the class. Lex went with me. Of course, I paid because I wound up having to take her to the mall Mecca and walk around there. So she got her revenge.
So 2011. So you've been at this about 10, 11 years, same as us. And wow, it's funny how you get into this. And you're like, I don't know how long I'll do this for. And then you look up and it's been 10, 12 years and it's like, wow.
Oh, and we did, we were sort of doing the points chase thing back in 2018. And we hit it pretty hard. Actually, by our standards, we do. I think we did about 35. And, man, it was rough. I mean, we were exhausted after that. And, after that, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, man. I was so burnt out after doing the points chase thing. In fact, I talked to Paul and Lynn with Rooters and Tutors. I don't know how they do it, man. They go a lot farther than we do.
Yeah,
but
they're crazy.
We scaled back for a couple of years after that. And then, I don't know, man, I got my fire back last year. And now I just want to cook all the time.
Yeah, it's funny because we kind of did the same thing. We went, really hard in 16, 17, and 18. And then I was like, we need to calm it down a little bit. And then I changed careers. And, but the words came out of my mouth the other day to Kim. I said, you know what I would really like? She's like, what? I was like, I'd like one more year of running real hard, And, and she just looked at me because, I mean, that's what it gets her going. She'd go every week if she could.
Yeah. Yeah. It's addicting. That's for sure.
Yeah. Especially when you can get into a rhythm and, I tell students all the time that the best way to get better at doing competition barbecue is to do it 4 weeks in a row. You really learn about yourself. You learn about your cooker. You learn about your food, and you know that little tiny changes can make a huge difference. And I think that's the biggest jump that you can experience.
Yeah, it's tough to go a month or more, or even a few weeks without cooking, because then you forget what you might did well the last time, or what you did not so well. Right.
How has your career and life experiences outside of barbecue prepared you to be a pitmaster on the competition trail?
As far as my career, I'm actually retired Navy, and so is Lex. So I think that sort of definitely had an impact, because it's all about following certain processes, especially how we were both sonar techs. And to me, anybody in the Navy, if you're doing any kind of maintenance, you got to follow a certain process. And I think that's sort of been beat into us through our Navy career. So, that definitely helps, on the barbecue trail for sure.
Absolutely. I didn't know that. That's awesome. We're going to have a couple of drinks and talk about that at some point. That's fascinating. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I could see that, being how competition barbecue can be really getting into a routine and having a process that having that background can be very effective.
Yeah. Yeah. And the job I had in the Navy was very, analysis centric, if you will. And, even the job I have now, I'm in a finance area, but it's a lot of analysis. So I'm always analyzing numbers and, things like that.
You tear that score sheet up, don't you?
Oh yeah, buddy. I have a hell of a spreadsheet.
The other day, we were in Spring Grove and we got the score sheet and Kim was like, "You want to look at it?" I'm like, "No, I don't. I haven't looked at one in years." And, then there was a mix up with comment cards and stuff. And people were like, "Did you check to see if your comment cards are right?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to because I don't really care if they're right." It's, but Kim will do the same thing. She'll sit there and go through it and she'll know which tables were which and who hit where. And oh man, it's exhausting to me.
Yeah, I actually have my own stats, so I count all 6 judges in my stats because I want to see how everybody's scoring up, whether they were dropped or not. And then I also, if I have time, I'll go look at the whole that contest specifically and see how the tables were. But
wow,
yeah, I analyze it.
Man, but I feel like we could do a whole podcast on just that.
Oh, I know we could for sure.
But oh man, that's also a rabbit hole I don't know that I want to go down.
In fact, I've been to contests with Paul and Lynn, and if they didn't do well, and I'll be looking at other teams too to see what tables they hit. And I'll say, "It's okay, Paul." I'll text him. I said, "It's okay. I looked at the tables. You hit the top 4, or you hit the all bottom 4 of the lowest scoring tables there. So you're good to go, buddy. Don't worry about it."
I think I just need you to send me that text every contest.
You need that.
It'll make me feel better.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of these times on podcasts, we like to talk about our successes and all the great things we've done. One of my favorite things to talk about is failures. And do you have a favorite failure of yours during a contest where something happened and didn't go your way, but you learned a lot from it?
Oh man. I don't know if there's any failure that's a favorite. I don't think any of them are my favorite. But yeah, I mean, shoot, we've had all kinds of failures throughout the years where we've learned from. One of the big failures that sort of turned around into something good was we were down in Coleman, Alabama. And that's back when we had a little 7x14 trailer and we cooked on 4 Weber Smoky Mountains. And they were under a tent outside. And of course, some of the strongest storms had rolled in. So I had 3 22-inch WSMs and an 18-inch stuffed under this 10x10 tent with the walls up. And I had a lit chimney. It was about 11 at night. Lex had already left and gone to the home or the hotel. I can't remember. But I go out and I trip over this lit chimney. And I fell on some other things I can't remember, but I remember getting up and blood's just going down my legs, both of them.
Oh, geez.
I just kept going. I went ahead and dropped the coals and got the meat on, and then I tended to my cut up legs. When Lex got there in the morning, she said, "What the hell did you do?" But yeah, it looked rough between burns and cuts. But we made it through it, and we actually wound up winning that contest, thankfully. But yeah, that was one of the sort of failures that turned out all right that I'll never forget.
Yeah.
As far as other failures, just recently, I noticed during the summer a couple contests. I don't know what it is. I got a little lazy on the pork boxes, and I wound up putting up in things that I knew weren't really all that good, but in my mind I was thinking, "Oh man, I got to fill this box with something," when I'm like, and after the fact, when I see the score and they say my pork's mushy, I'm like, "Yeah, you dumbass, you just put mushy pork in the damn box. Why did you do that? You know better. You've been doing this for this long." But it's one of those things, I'm telling you, you just get lazy, and I don't know.
Well, man, I've been having the same thing. It's like, you shouldn't do it, but but there's just something like, that there's this need. I don't know. I've been struggling recently with seeing people posting pork boxes online, especially. Hey, look, I got 3rd place pork, and it's just money muscle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I've seen that. He's seen that with 6 slices of money muscle, and they got a 180.
Right. And I just feel like if I do that, then I'm kind of gaming the system, and I just feel like there's so much more to a pork box than just that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I think
so
that's
I
one of the things where we have been doing it for so long. We're used to the fuller pork boxes of years ago,
right.
right?
And
I don't
it's
know.
you just have to, and it's the term is called editing yourself, and
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it.
Well,
But
the altitude sort of screwed with me in Wise because I wasn't sort of used to that, and most of my pork got done way earlier than it normally does, and I I think I overcooked about 3 of the 5 money mussels that I had.
yeah, that elevation change will definitely mess with you a little bit. And we've cooked that contest, I don't know how many, all but one time now that they've had it, and the barometric pressure will change in that place on a dime. And you can feel the air change, and you can just see, you can watch your, one year we watched our brisket go from 199 on the thermal, on the chef alarm, down to 196 in the cooker. Never
Wow.
took never took it out, and it just changed. And I looked across the street at Jerry Stevenson, and I said, "Did you see that?" And not even telling him what happened, and he goes, "Yep." I said, "I'm taking it out right now." There's no way.
In fact, I went ahead, I learned my lesson, and in Galax, I checked it a lot earlier, and it turned out a lot better. But oh well. But that's one of those failures, that you learn from.
Absolutely. Let's talk about gear a little bit. What's one of the best investments that you've made in competition barbecue?
One of the best investments I've made in competition barbecue. I think most people, it's been a class. I mean,
Yeah.
to cut that curve. Now I'm even a member of the barbecue league. I watch the videos. That to me, that's a great investment. I
And that's a
mean,
that's a great investment, and it's $100. And
exactly.
and the amount of knowledge that especially a new team can gather so quickly it's staggering actually.
Oh, it is. Watching Bethany's chicken video, one of the early ones. I changed my chicken process because I saw her do that, and I said, "Well, shoot, if she can do that on a drum, that looks pretty good. I can do it on a WSM." And I
Absolutely.
changed my process to match that, and I just do it on a WSM.
It's too bad that Bethany's such a horrible person and a terrible teammate. I say that anytime anyone brings her up. She left me cold one day and didn't bring me coffee, and it was very.
um,
I've never let go. This podcast is brought to you by BarbecueData.com. BarbecueData.com is your one-stop shop for all of your barbecue competition data. Historical data, calls, wins, placements, everything under one roof. It's a great way not only to track yourself in the standings, but also to track how you improve your scores from year to year. Listeners of this podcast can receive 20% off of a new subscription to BarbecueData.com with the code PITPOD. That's one word, all capital letters, PITPOD, PITPOD. So check your team scores, check on others, and do it all on BarbecueData.com. But what's the purchase of like a small tool or something that's $100 or less that's most positively impacted your cooking?
$100 or less. Shoot and barbecue. That's not much
Not
nowadays.
much anymore.
um, Man, I don't know. Just some little things like might be stupid, but the tumbleweeds for starting your chimney.
Absolutely.
Those things are awesome. I mean, we've come a long way from using newspaper from when we first started.
Absolutely. Or those Weber grill paraffin grill cubes that you'd light one and then go out and all that. Tumbleweeds are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, and they haven't been around that long, I don't think. Only a few years, but those things are awesome.
Yeah.
I forgot mine in Greenwood, and I went around trying to find something to light my cooker. Finally, I found somebody that had them. So
You were trying to find everything in Greenwood.
I got everything in Greenwood.
I remember just looking at you going, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I forgot everything and I need to go find it."
That goes back to the failure thing. I learned my lesson there.
So do you use a lot of technology when you're cooking?
On my stick burner, I use probes in the meat.
Yeah.
Tell me when it's done necessarily, but to say, hey, Robert, you need to start checking to see if it's getting, because as soon as it hits to a certain temp where I want to start checking, I take the probe out. It doesn't go back in the meat. Then I go in certain 15-minute increments, and then I'll check it, the feel of it. But it's all by the feel after that. Now, I've been cooking chicken on an 18-inch Weber Smoky Mountain ever since we started. But so I do use a Guru temp controller there.
Nice.
But that's it.
The Weber Smoky Mountain. What an amazing cooker.
I know, isn't it? Sometimes I miss cooking those, but it was a lot of work. But then again, you see all these drum guys now that carry all 4 drums, and I was like, hey, I was doing that back in the day, sort of.
Right. I cooked on 2 WSMs for a long time. And yes, you can definitely make it work. And I wish I still had those. I wish I'd never gotten rid of them.
Yeah, I had the 322-inch Weber Smoky Mountains, and I actually had, I don't know if you remember the device called a stoker.
Yeah.
It was a guy out in California that had them. In fact, Harry Sue used it on Pitmasters. And what was good about that is it was one unit that can control 3. You could control probably more than 3 cookers if you have the splitter for it. But it was a good controller.
I had the Cyber Q2, the barbecue guru that would run 2 pits at the same time.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and it had a plug that it had a USB plug that you could then plug it into a computer and track your temperatures overnight. So I would wait until work was selling like old laptops, and I would pick one up and take it to a contest and set it up so I could look at it at the temperature data overnight. And after about the 3rd laptop, I was like, I need to stop doing this because it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Barbecue.
I used to do the same thing.
Yeah, barbecue cook sites are not kind to computing equipment. So yeah, all right. Let's now we got this. These questions are going to be awesome. Let's get into people a little bit. Who has impacted your life the most in competition barbecue?
Wow, man, there's definitely a lot. Shoot, I mean, looking back to watching Pitmasters when we first started, I mean, those people. Harry Sue is definitely somebody that when I saw him cooking on those Weber Smoky Mountains, that was sort of my inspiration to use those. Now, originally, I wanted a Jambo. I wanted to cook on a stick burner, but I didn't want to stay up all night and tend to a fire, to be honest. Right. I saw a lot of guys doing that, but I was like, no, that's not for me. I like to get my sleep. So that's why I went with the Weber Smoky Mountains and went with the Stoker, because I could put my meats on it at like 11 at night and get plenty of sleep, get up about 5 and wrap, and I go. But you know what? One of the definitely people that inspired me to switch over to a stick burner was Darren Worth. I listened to him on the Barbecue Central radio show one time, and he was talking about when he put on his meat and when he took it off. I'm like, shoot, if he could do it, I could try to figure that out. And really, I think it was some kind of pork round table, but he was talking about all the meats And I was able to figure out when he put on a lot of the other meats as well, just from that show. And I said, well, man, if he can do it, I could try to figure out how to do that too. So that's when we decided, and we got the champion, out of Knoxville.
Yeah.
And, we've been cooking on that ever since, man. I love that cooker. But, yeah, Darren Worth has definitely I know he's been an inspiration to a lot of cooks out there.
Oh, yes. Present company included.
But, even watching a lot of the cooks like Tim and Brad, the things they're doing now, and Memphis and May and things like that, they're definitely an inspiration as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of people where you can really, I mean, even if it's just the smallest little things, and I just enjoy learning. And I think the people that have been around barbecue for so long, that's the one constant trait that I think defines a lot of them, is that they're constantly learning and trying new things and adapting, which I think is a big part of this game.
And you're right. I mean, there are so many great pitmasters when I first started that just dropped out of cooking competition barbecue because they got frustrated. They just weren't willing to adapt, I think, to the changes in the competition and even in the judges. I mean, look at brisket burn ends. I mean, we turned those in when we were doing well back in the day. In brisket, we were turning those in 90% of the time. And now we turn that in. But because barbecue has changed, you need to change your mentality.
Absolutely. And I've cooked burn ends the past 3 contests now, and I wasn't even taking the point anymore. And I was like, you know what? You need to start doing that again and stop being lazy.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder why I take it, because I think maybe this year so far, I think we've turned them in twice. And we did okay, but you know what? You never know if you don't get a comment card whether it hurt you or helped you.
Right.
So
I do it more as I do it more of as a security blanket in case I absolutely destroy the flat.
Exactly. That is true. That is true. But I tell you what, it's good lunches for.
Absolutely. Make some great sandwiches. Great sandwiches. So when you're having a problem, when you're having a barbecue issue, who is it that you pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this meat? Who's that person for you?
Dude, I don't know that there's anybody that I call. I have texted back and forth with Paul Keltner a couple times, but I think one of the things that I know we sort of been struggling a little bit the last couple of years, last year and the year before. And one of the things that we did beginning of this year is we reached out to several judges. We had a practice at a friend's house, a 2-team practice, and we had 12 judges. And this was in Georgia. Wow. And we used to do this every year when we first started, and we had stopped. And so I said, Lex, we need to do that again, because that definitely tells you what, where we're at, whatever we need to do,
Right.
And, we had 12 judges, and I tell you what, the feedback you get at one of those is so valuable. And it kills me when people, they're having so many issues and they're just beating their head against the wall. I'm like, man, there's this resource out there, all these great judges that would love to show up on a weekend when nothing else is going on, and help you out.
Right. Right. And that's something that we used to do as well. And, haven't had time to do it in the past couple of years. And and with COVID and everything, it was really hard to do. And
you're right.
Yeah. So maybe we should bring that back too. What was the biggest turning point in your life as a pitmaster?
biggest turning point. Dude, seems like there's been a few turning points. Man, I don't know. I mean, we were very fortunate that first year in 2012 after we took the class. I mean, I think we cooked in 20 comps that year. And we finally got to the point where we won one at the very end of the year. It was in somewhere in Georgia. And I think that was a turning point for us. Really, it's wins that keeps the addiction going.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think there was any major turning point. Like I said, if it gets to the point we're not doing so well, we sort of try to do those practice with judges and try to turn things around. And I tell you what, the few times we've done that, it's definitely worked out well for us.
That's good. That's good. Habits and rituals, routines. Do you guys have any superstitions? Do you have anything you have to do every contest?
You're talking to the wrong person. You should be talking to my wife.
Alexa's got some stuff.
Oh my goodness. Every little thing, man. If we don't do it the exact same, she loses her mind. I'm like, Lex, it's fine. We'll be okay without that. We've got to do our 11/11 apple pie shot. That's like we've been doing that
right.
a long time. She's been making that apple pie. It's been a long time. But
I got to participate for the first time in Wise.
What's that?
I got to participate for the first time in Wise. I had to run down.
Yeah. Well, a lot of 11/11 is sort of a key time. The reason we came up with that time is by that time we're usually yelling at each other, or back in the day we were. Now it's a little bit more calm nowadays, but back in the day, that's when we both needed a good stiff drink, you know.
I have a beer before turn-ins now, just to calm myself down.
It helps. It helps. But it's the apple pie. It's the Alabama barbecue pig that goes everywhere with Lex. When she leaves the house to go to a comp, she puts the pig up on her dash in her Jeep, and she has to take a picture of the pig, the road in the background. That's her typical thing. So we aren't going to do well this weekend because I never got that pick.
Oh, no.
We're screwed.
You know what? I'll take a picture or something for you and send it to you tomorrow. See if I can fill that gap for you. It might be Detroit. I don't know. Oh, boy. All right. So we have 5 minutes left. And I'm going to have to fix this. But that means we need to get into these rapid fire questions because I don't want to miss these. And because we talked a lot, but we didn't ask you some very many questions. We'll probably have to do a part 2 at some point.
Hey, sounds good.
Okay, rapid fire questions.
All right.
What do you see about barbecue on social media that upsets or bothers you?
What bothers me is when certain cooks post their comment cards and complain about the judges.
Yep.
And I try to tell them, in fact, I was on Chewing the Barbecue Fat and we were talking about that because somebody had posted their comment card about something, I can't remember what it was. So typical one is lighter fluid. Obviously they aren't using lighter fluid, but you can't take it so literal. There's something in there that does not taste right. That's all you need to
fix it.
Take it, use it, or don't.
Exactly. Do you guys have a favorite pre, during, or post competition meal?
Pre is always usually Mexican. We've both been doing keto for 3 years, so we got to be careful what we eat. But it's usually always Mexican fajitas before, on the Friday. And then Saturday, we got some really good keto ice cream that we sort of indulge in because we're usually not hungry after tasting the barbecue all day.
Yep, that's same thing. I like a good salad.
There you go.
Do you have a favorite present that you like to give to people?
Whew. I don't. I don't think I give people any presents that I recall. I like helping people out.
Yeah, that's
Got
a good
plenty,
present.
got plenty of people texting me, asking me questions about how to cook certain things. We had a couple people start out in Pusacu, in the backyard. Two people from my area, one up towards Nashville, and one right next to me, and both of them got chicken calls. So I was pretty happy for them.
That's awesome. That's, I rarely tell anybody no. You have to have done something to me for me not to try and help you out.
Yeah, some people found out that I helped them, and they said, "Well, why don't you help us?" I said, "Ask the question."
ask, ask the right question.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, right. Last question. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, getting a message out to millions of or billions of people, what would it say and why?
Oh, wow. Uh, and I think there's a saying that I learned a long time ago that I heard from somewhere. I can't remember where it came from, but the saying was that the wisest of men can admit they don't know anything, or something to that effect. And that goes back to what we were talking about being adaptive to change.
Right.
Even though you think you're the best pitmaster in the world, if things change, you need to change with it if you want to be successful.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And that really ties the whole thing together. Well, good luck to you this weekend in Savannah. Where can people find Smoke Me Silly online?
Uh, we're on Facebook, Smoke Me Silly. We have a YouTube channel, Silly BBQ Life. I'm doing videos for a while. I had stopped recently because I tell you what, that editing takes up a lot of time.
Absolutely.
I'd like to get started back on that again. I enjoy doing that. So yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll put that out in the show notes and get so people can check it out.
All right.
All right. Well, good luck this weekend, my friend.
All right. You too, Luke.
And we'll see you down the road.
All right.
Okay.